Those of you who are here to our 5 o'clock board meeting, this is December 2nd, 2025. It is 5:01, and we're going to begin by indicating who's here. Clark, will you start?
Clark Nelson.
Carrie Leader.
Chris Wynn.
Connie Burgess.
Kim Chandler.
Julie Jackson.
Todd Hubbard. Ben Horsley.
Nicole McDermott. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started on our capital construction update. So Justin and Chris, take it away.
Good evening, board members and district leadership. Appreciate the opportunity to share a few slides with you. We'll move quickly, but as far as security, the remaining item right now is the Taylorsville High School wing addition. That will include a office setup much like, as far as security, like Skyline and Cypress, where patrons are vetted through into the office, and then once you're checked, you can move on into the school. So it'll be very similar to that. But that is in design. So that's the one that we're still working on as far as security. And just a reminder, I had to give a report this morning. We have 5 of our 16 junior highs with security upgrades, and this will be the 3rd high school that's either done or in design. So that's a quarter high schools and a quarter junior highs that are done, and then all of our elementary. So we're making good progress there. That's kind of an update where we're at with the security. As far as upcoming and ongoing projects, the auditorium lighting upgrade at Taylorsville, there is 6 can lights that we're waiting on, and then that will be done. So we don't have those yet. We're hoping this month, and then they can wrap that up. But that was the house lighting component. I mentioned we're in design on the Taylorsville High Wing Addition. There's Magna Steam Academy has some ongoing solar panel tweaks and the battery component to that. So that's going to be ongoing through the first part of this upcoming year to get that all wrapped up, and so that can be functional. And Brock Bank, the STEM remodel from this last summer, a few items. We're going to work on the fire alarm component over the Christmas break and try to get that wrapped up. So those are some ongoing projects that we're hoping to quickly bring to an end. Mountain View Corridor, that was the tree project where we received a grant and planted a lot of trees. That's going well, just in time for the winter for the trees to hibernate. Skyline abatement is starting here the middle of December. I believe Monday the 15th, if that's Monday. So I think it's Tuesday. We will be in there to start moving things out and removing the seats and then starting the abatement. So that's quickly upon us, which is exciting. And Chris has got some exciting photos to show you in a little bit about the parking lot that we got a kind of early Christmas surprise, which was nice. And then carbon monoxide, these are the remaining projects that we need to get out on the street to bid. We bid them in the summer. Nobody was interested in doing the work. We're going to rebid those. I think it's 7 schools we have left from the state mandate a few years ago. We need to wrap those up. HVAC projects that are ongoing, boiler at both Hillside and Bacchus are just finishing touches, trying to get things all dialed in, but it seems to be working, just not, we're not 100% done there. Air handling unit here at the GEC has arrived, and we'll start that over the winter break. And then some commissioning at Walker, South Kearns, and both Skyline and Cypress are ongoing. Bridger Elementary chiller replacement has been awarded, and the equipment's being ordered, so making some progress there.
Just in time for winter.
Sorry?
Just in time for winter.
Just in time for the winter, exactly. That is the end of my report, and if you have any questions, otherwise I'll give Chris the microphone and you can talk about Cypress and Skyline.
So happy to report Cypress High School is substantially complete. With the remaining items, we're currently in the punch stage and just finishing up loose odds and ends and working towards final completion on the project. As you can see from the list, quite a few things, particularly in the CTE area and the performing arts, were the last items that were completed, specifically including that second level spectator railing that was a code add late in the process, but is now all complete. And I know they're working frenetically right now on their play preparation in there right now. So it's a lovely facility. The last few remaining things, and a lot of it related to AV equipment. You can see, you can go ahead and go to the electric vehicle charging station was done by the Granite School District personnel. And I think that's one thing that needs to not go unnoticed is how much effort after even the contractor has been working as the Granite District staff, Dallin Jones, the project manager, and all the other departments that have been working on getting the various extra projects completed that were part of the scope of work that Granite elected, both from a competency and expertise standpoint and also from a cost saving standpoint to take on some of that scope of work themselves out of the general contractor. Some of the whiteboards that were installed in athletics, and like I said, many of the things in the Performing Arts Center at the ticket booth, and inside of particularly the stage rail. This is the railing I was talking about from a safety standpoint at the top of the extended bleacher area in the auditorium balcony, and all the audiovisual equipment, the TV production room, which is really fun to see the students using that stuff, and quite a bit of stuff in the CTE section in terms of the welding booths and all the other different components that were being done. And the massive kiln finally got here, I think, after a couple-year journey. It really is one of the projects I played in Arizona was their ceramics laboratory section for Arizona State, and I think this is probably just as large or as sophisticated as any of those that they had at the university arts levels there. And then some of the finding, in case you haven't been out there to see, most of these graphics were installed at the ribbon cutting, but there are some more, particularly the one that's in the photo there on the right, some of the rest of the digital vinyl wall coverings, giving a little bit of the shout out backs. They're not all seals and pirates and undersea adventures. There aren't any change orders to be brought before the board for Cypress. Any questions before I proceed to Skyline? Okay, so Skyline, punch list is not the right word. Warranty corrective items are being completed there. And then the vast majority of the effort, particularly this last month, is going on in the new performing arts areas. The lobby in particular, the vestibules and different things are really starting to take shape. And then behind the scenes, the fly loft rigging is substantially being installed right now, and a lot of the enclosures and all of the finishes, kind of a thing that you're seeing, the band room, the black box theater, the orchestral and choir spaces are all moving quite rapidly. This is kind of gives you a good clue of what it looks like on the outside right now, and then that interior lobby is performing really well. And you can kind of see in the corner kind of the surprise that Justin was alluding to, and that's the southeast parking lot that was originally to be delivered at the end of next school year is going to be turned over starting on Monday to the school to use, which, as you all know, any of you have been around Skyline know how chronically short of parking space Skyline is on any given moment. So
how many spaces is it? Is it for students?
go ahead.
Sorry, so I believe Rob's going to use it primarily for faculty because he's losing his faculty parking currently, so he's going to bring faculty there. But the other component of this, and I don't know that we have, sorry, probably don't have it, it allows for a secondary drop-off for students and parents, so that's going to help relieve some of that pressure as well. So his faculty will be right there in the front, and we still have the church to this north and west for the kiddos, as well as the other parking places. So It's a help, it's a plus.
On the east side, where the faculty parking has been for many years, it currently is a shared lot, and you have to decipher the paint on the parking stall, whether it's faculty or children. And so I assume that that will now be all children parking, which would be great. Yes.
But it won't be up against the building because that's part of the demolition phase, but further out by baseball and the driver's head.
Right, because it's one of those give and take kind of a situations, because when the demolition starts, all of those parking spaces that are currently right there up against the east side of the existing auditorium are going away.
So really, we're just switching. We're not going to actually gain, it doesn't sound like.
There is a net gain.
There is a net gain. It's not the amount of spaces they're losing is in the 50 or 60 range, and they're probably gathering maybe 1.5 to twice that many in this save. Sorry, go ahead.
Is that the parking lot right there? That one?
To the right, the lower part where you see all that beautiful new striping and
So you can in the next slide, you can kind of see it back behind it. That's the one.
right, that if you look at the upper right corner, you can kind of see that parking. Because this is the west side of the auditorium where where you see that lovely big hole where the mechanical unit that's currently outside is going to go on the west side of the building. So we can go ahead and proceed to that slide. And you can see all the soffit material going in and the glass and all of the various things that are, and then the upper part of the fly loft on the exterior of the fly loft. So, and there's a better picture of that parking lot. Does that help answer your
So
question,
great.
Julie?
I'm really
So-
thrilled about that.
Yep. So
That was a worry. Does the
And-
building committee know about that?
what? They will in 2 days from now.
Well, I'm going to come to that meeting.
Stay for the whole thing. Okay, and you can see, like I said, the precast stair treads and much of the rest of the lobby is currently being completed right now. And then if you go back one, that big wall to the left is where that graphic is going. Okay. Like I said, the ceiling grid, the instrument rooms, all the performing arts rooms are moving into the stage, moving into the final stage areas of completion. The fly loft rigging is starting, which we're very, very excited for that because that is a very lengthy process to get all of the rigging done in there. So,
Are you waiting, did you get the same stuff for Cypress at the same time you got Skylines? Or, because isn't that what we were waiting on for Cypress?
what took a really long time was the completion of the rigging. Now, they're two different kinds of rigging systems.
Oh, okay.
And they're being installed by two different contractors. So we hope for much better things out of it.
Yeah, as much as the material, it was the labor force from that vendor at Cypress. That's not who we have.
It is not the same vendor.
Okay.
So we're hoping for better results.
So if we see any of the same guys, we know what's going on, so.
There was some, years ago, some debate about what kind of rigging we should use at Skyline. Cypress went with an automated rigging system, which cost quite a bit more money, and their trade-off was a little bit lower proscenium. And Skyline said, no, we need the big high proscenium. So we want the non-automated rigging, which is a little bit more dangerous, but the trade-off is the kids get to learn how to survive this dangerous equipment. So it is a little bit different.
In fact, I was just noticing, if you look, I'm going back a few slides, if you look at the one on the right, those are a couple of three men that are working on that lower of the two roofs, but you can see the scale of that fly loft, but those are gentlemen up that ladder, and then there's even more distance to go up. So you can see how large that fly loft is and how high that roof is.
Go ahead and go. And you can see quite a few of the interior finishes. In fact, the classroom age, the top floor classrooms are nearly complete from a finish standpoint. They're moving down through the second and first floor on those completions.
Hey,
And-
those issues with the bathroom locks from Cypress, are we fixing those at Cypress and at Skyline?
Yes, we've had some internal discussions with our own team, internal locksmiths, and they're going to solve it here. Apparently, there's some other places in the district I wasn't aware of that had similar, Westlake apparently as well, and so they are jumping in to help solve that throughout, so we don't have that same issue.
Thank you.
Good call, Nicole. Yeah, that has been a problem.
Go ahead and keep going. And, yeah, so this is the non-cool part unless you're really into mechanical piping and plumbing, but it makes us very happy to see not only is all of the plumbing in, but it's insulated and it's color-coded and it's appropriately being completed in a very schedule-friendly manner. So we're very, very happy and confident with the Skyline schedule at this point. I think our biggest outliers is getting the extensive abatement done on the old auditorium and getting that done in a sufficient time frame for Hughes to demo that and get it out of the way, because if you remember seeing the plan, that's where that whole giant drop-off loop comes into the school, right there where the existing auditorium is sitting. And so those are the things, but in terms of the progress of the actual remaining facilities, they're doing very well and are in good shape schedule-wise.
And that's coming down during Christmas break?
No, the abatement is going to start right before Christmas break, and that abatement will probably continue to the end of February. And then at that point is when the old auditorium will be demolished and all of that stuff hauled off at that point. So actually, Ashton from the school district is already coordinating with the warehousing. They're already taking stuff out of the old auditorium that they don't need for the final performances and stuff in order to make sure. I'm sure you've seen those very large Pebble Tech panels on the outside of the auditorium. Those are transite panels. Each one of those panels has to come off as part of the abatement process. When I transite, that's cementatious asbestos panels, and so all of those panels have to come off individually before the rest of the building is demolished. So that's why it's going to take about 2 to 2.5 months to complete the abatement on those. So 2 guys on a lift taking each one of those panels down, and the district already had a lot of foresight to go ahead and get most of the asbestos out previously during the summer from the inside of the building. So that's going to be the last final step before it's demolished. But the new auditorium and classroom buildings will complete about the time of the end of school. It's just the rest of the plaza and stuff that will continue through the summer and beginning of fall.
And the seats are coming out, right,
The seats are coming out, yes.
In December.
That's the effort that Justin was talking about. Starting on the 15th is all the seats coming out.
Where are the seats going? To
Taylorsville.
Taylorsville? Okay, I just had another, I ran into somebody at the Skyline Play who was from another school and said, hey, can my school have these auditorium seats?
No.
I said, I'll find out.
They're spoken for.
Okay, I'll let her know.
I think we're trying to place them at Brockbank as well. Will we have enough?
They were not able to fit at Brockbank because of the slope of the floor and the seats, so it didn't work for Brockbank.
They are in incredibly good condition.
They really are, and we won't need all of them for Taylorsville, but I don't know what school it was, and we could talk offline if you'd like.
Okay, sure.
I really want to be clear here because sometimes people get frustrated with getting hand-me-downs, but we actually went and had a conversation with this community and seeing the condition of their current seats and knowing that new seats were even further out if we were to pay the full cost. They opted and requested that they could have these seats.
They also had the
people who came, the chair people, I don't know what they're called. Anyway, they came and they said, yes, there's a good 10 to 15 years at least on these seats still, because they're in really good condition, which is a heck of a lot better than what is currently there, so.
Well, I'm so happy.
If you sit on the fourth row on the east side, it's actually off the middle aisle, you'll get stabbed with a screw at Taylorsville right now. So
They
I'd
say
be happy to
that for-
show you if you'd like.
I went to see the play, and my husband said, "Oh, I think there's a spring." Yeah, he was.
They're delightful.
Justin or Chris, either one of you, I understand that we have people who have been conducting class in the old building who now are going to be evacuated is the wrong word, but thank you, relocated is way better. And how is that going?
As far as them moving, I don't know what their feelings are, but they know that this is the site of progress. Rob, our principal, has been handling that. As Chris mentioned, Ashton from our team is helping coordinate with the warehouse, district warehouse, to move things that don't need to be moved. So I believe everyone's on board, and I think everyone sees that the end is very near and excited about the future. I don't know how many people from Skyline have been out to Cypress and seen the new auditorium, because they've not had that, and so I think they can see this is worth a little inconvenience. I'm speaking generally, but I think they can see
their
that.
performing arts teachers have been out,
Good.
and they're the ones who are
Sure.
being affected the
They will be a
most.
little affected, of course, yeah, for a few months. We're talking 5 months, right, from
Yeah.
January through the end of the year.
I just want to make sure that that they're getting the support and help that they need, that they're able to get out on time, because, they would have to be out of there next week, and then they still have 2 more weeks till the end of the term, or end of semester. And so it's a tricky time to do that, and then also in the middle of their holiday performances and all of this. So I just want to make sure that we're sensitive to them and supporting them. But I'll reach out to Rob maybe and see if there's something extra I could do.
That would be great, because and to your point, but the district, with Ashton and the rest of the district staff, they're working very hard to make that as seamless as possible, but it is a discomfort kind of a situation, and us being able to start the asbestos as early as we can just really is going to help that end product be a little smoother. And there aren't any, please go ahead.
To that end, it'd be interesting for you to see the adjustments that are needing for students to get into the existing new building while we're in the process of tearing down the old. Because the passageway by the auditorium is the only way in right now. And so we've got to be away from the auditorium. So they're erecting a ramp, and they'll walk across the track and the field. They've got a pretty good plan to keep kids safe.
And the good news, that's correct. The exciting news about this new parking lot is that ramp would only be used if you park out by baseball or go that direction. If you're making your daily trip to the seminary or you're going to a different area, we've now got the new parking lot, so we were able to help cut down the distance they have to walk around, which is exciting as well.
So is that already up? That ramp?
They're finished.
Yeah, just finishing up the concrete
That ramp that's on the east side of the football field.
between where the bus turnaround is and the football field. There's some concrete landing. They'll put the ramp on there, and we should be ready to go here shortly.
Yeah, that was originally going to be our only way to get students around and up the hill to the seminary, but now with this parking lot, they can actually come out the south side of the building.
Will you use the bus ramp as the turnaround for parents, the drop-off? Where will that be? How will they drop people off?
Yeah, it's still, Rob has been using the west side, but now we'll have this new parking lot, the east parking lot, that
they'll
can
do it
become a
there.
temporary parking lot until the auditorium goes away, and then next summer, fall, we'll have the new one,
Okay.
permanent one.
That's great.
And there aren't any change orders for Skyline to bring before.
All right. If there's no further questions, we'll go ahead and move on. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. All right, we're going to invite our business administrator, Todd Haber, up, and he's going to talk about our affordable housing survey response.
All right, it's good to be with you. I think this topic of employee housing has been in my office since the day I started with the district. As we've gone through looking at school closures and interested parties and looking at parcels of land that suddenly become available because of a school closure, questions have come up, what are you going to do with the property? At the same time, we were also looking at some of the challenges that we were experiencing in hiring employees and having employees come and unable to find housing even though they wanted to come and work for the district. So there was this confluence of opportunities of properties and the need to retain employees and attract employees to the district all came together in one at one time. We did back in April put out an RFP looking for a consultant and found that we had asked for too much in one single offering. We needed to have someone come help us on a survey tool, a feasibility study, and then through the selection process of a developer who could then develop whatever the project is that came out of the first two steps. There wasn't anybody willing to take on all of that. So we've broken it up into the pieces, and so this is the first piece, which is the survey. We did work with a consultant who helped us design the questions. They provided that gratis to us. We're very grateful for that. The questions are designed around the idea of an eventual feasibility study. So the questions would be those types of information, interests, unit types, things of that nature that an employee would be interested in so that we could then build a project or an idea around what they would actually be willing to live in. So the questions again are in that context. So we'll jump into some of the results. I'll walk through these. I can go through them as fast or as slow as you'd like. And then there are some next steps and policy discussions that we'll want to get into. This survey was conducted back in September, so just a couple of months ago. We had 1,567 responses to the survey. And you can see by what employee type they were, whether they were contract classified, hourly, or licensed educators. The scale was, what is your level of interest if the district were to provide affordable housing? Would you be interested in living in those units? 5 being the highest interest and 0 being no interest at all. The rest of the slides that I'll be showing you here are based on the 2 scores of 5 or 4, so they're very interested or interested in living in the housing, because those are the more indicative individuals that would actually move into a housing offering if we were to go that route. We asked what is their current housing situation, and the majority are renting. And we know in the valley that rental prices have gone up significantly, and they're a great challenge for individuals to be able to pay and stay in their housing. So it was interesting to see that even among our own employees, rental is the most prominent housing situation that we're in right now. We asked what's the size of the household. Are you by yourself? Are you with a partner? Or do you have a family? And it was interesting to see how many were a 2-person household. That was the most prominent situation. Again, these start to help us in a feasibility study to say, well, what size of a unit would we offer? Are we looking for studio apartments, or do we need to have a 3-bedroom house? Or what is it that they would actually be looking for? So this is data that starts to inform those questions that we'll have for a feasibility study. We asked where are they, because we do know that affordability in housing is helpful when it's closest to your place of employment or where you're currently living. So we said, where are you? And the majority of the respondents came from the West Valley City area. It's also interesting to note that a larger response group came from the Mill Creek City area. We asked, where do you work? What school? So we asked what school you worked at. I've put it into network areas just to make it easier to see instead of having 80 properties across the chart here. What was surprising to me is to see how many of them worked in the district. So they're not out at necessarily a school site, they're at the district working here in this building. Within that, we asked, okay, what is your position? Are you a classified contract, hourly, licensed, or other? And the greatest interest was among our licensed employees, our teachers. We asked them, how long have you been working for the district? Because again, we want to ask questions of longevity. If we were to build housing, how long do we need the housing to be in place? And what type of contracts would we be looking at? For those who are classified employees, most of them have been with the district for 1 to 3 years who responded. And the largest group of our licensed educators was the 10 or more years. Then we asked a sneaky question. We said, well, how long do you think you'll be here? I don't know if anyone wants to tell us exactly how long they're going to be with us, but they did respond. And of interest is that both groups responded that they plan to be with the district 5 or more years. Again, that's helpful in the feasibility study to know what type of units and what availability would those be in. Are we talking rental units? Are we talking rent to own? Are we talking homes? What is the commitment that they're going to be making to us? Because we're going to have an asset or a benefit that will benefit them for a longer period of time. We also asked income levels. This is important as we start to look under the feasibility study of what other resources are available to help bring down the cost of either a mortgage payment or a rent payment. These particular salary levels are key because they are the different trigger levels for either federal assistance or state assistance in their housing situations. And so it was interesting to note that the majority of our interested people earn less than $61,000. That would actually qualify them for some federal programming. So that would help us to lower the cost in the project. We broke that out between classified and licensed because we wanted to see what employee group are we really working with here. And we can see that the classified employees are those that are in that $61,000 range, with our teachers being in the $73,000 to the $97,000 range. And again, that changes of eligibility for any assistance programs, because once your average household income hits certain target levels, those benefits or those assistance drop off. They're less available. They income out of those. And so again, that helps with the feasibility study. Who is it that we're targeting? What employees can we actually talk to? And which ones would be able to afford even the prices that we might have in housing units?
So but that's the combined household income, right? That's
So
you
yes.
did ask household.
So we asked household income.
So that could be teacher salary and
Whoever the other
spouse or-
income generator is in the house. Yep. And that's how the federal programs and the state programs work. They ask household income questions, not who's the breadwinner and how much are they making. It's the household income. And it's compared to what they call the AMI, or the area median income, for those calculations. We asked how much are they paying in their current costs, and we can see that the majority are paying between $1,500 and $2,000 for their current housing situation. We also asked, we broke that out between the groups because we are curious to see and what the policy might be of the board. Who is it that we're offering this to? Is it a teacher housing program, or is it employees of the district housing program? Who is our target audience? Who are the employees that we are most interested in helping through this offering? So again, you can see where those costs are by the different positions. We also asked the question, what is it that you would like to get into? You're in a housing situation now. What would be an improvement? What would help you? What's your goal? Where would you like to be? And the most common answer was they want to own their own home or have a lower rent or mortgage payment. So that was like the number one reason for wanting to look at district provided housing. We also asked, are you interested in renting or owning? So the majority are interested in a rental situation, so not necessarily home ownership. It's not that it's ruled out, but it's the greatest interest is in rentals. We then broke that out by position to have a better understanding there as to who is telling us that. Is it our classified or is it our licensed employees? I'm sure I'm going to get in trouble for using the word classified because I should be using ESPs. Well, I apologize. We asked the question of what size of unit would you be interested in? A 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom or more, or a studio? And we can see that the greatest interest is in a 2-bedroom situation, almost across all of the income levels. We broke that same question out by our positions, and we can see that it is interesting to note that both the licensed and ESPs are looking for a 2-bedroom type situation. Not exclusively, but that's the largest input that we received. We asked, what would your preferred rent or mortgage be? So in other words, you're paying something now, what would you be interested in paying? And it is of note that the $1,000 to $1,400 range is what they would like to be in. Now, if you recall, the earlier slide is they're paying between $1,500 and $2,000. So they would like to pay $500 less for the housing situation that they're in. Then we broke that out also by licensed and the ESPs, just to see if there was a difference in those different employee groups. And this is the monthly cost for the size. This was more or less a reality check. Is someone saying, I want a 3-bedroom house for $1,000? Is there just a disconnect in what they're asking for? Is it even realistic to go after? And it seems to be pretty realistic in the sense that a 2-bedroom apartment in the $1,000 to $1,500 range seems reasonable. It's not what the market's providing, but it doesn't seem out of whack. I'll skip over this one for a second. I did have fun with the AI. We did have free form responses. And so we said, what was the most common terms that came up? And there's definitely an interest in district-provided housing for a home situation. In the free form, we did say, tell us what you want, or fill in the blanks. If we didn't ask all the questions that you think we need to know, please let us know what your thoughts are about housing. So there is strong interest by the employees that responded to the survey in having employer-provided housing. They do see it as a recruitment and retention tool, that we would be able to attract teachers and retain teachers if this were a benefit afforded them. Affordable housing is an issue in our community. We see that happening even at the state level as they grapple with affordable housing and either lack of housing units or lack of units for starter homes and things of that nature. So there is a lot of interest with affordable housing right now, and that would provide some morale and showing that we are mindful of their situation and that we are looking to ways to help them in their family situations. Not all of it was positive. There were some concerns. There is concerns of how would we allocate these units. We had about 600 individuals indicate interest. We're probably in the realm of between 40 and 100 units that we would be able to put into place at any given property. There's a big disparity there between 600 and 100 units available. How would we get through that? What's the process of selecting or identifying individuals who can apply, and how transparent would that be? So that they understand what's happening. So that was a concern. Another was in the space, would they have autonomy? Are they going into a communal situation where the district's going to run all parts of their life? Or because we're putting them in a district housing situation, or would they be able to have their own, I am me, and I'm in this space, and will I be able to be my own person? Concerns about restrictions of being in that space. Would we have other requirements that they would have to abide by? We haven't said anything, but there is that concern, how restrictive could this situation be? And within all of that is what are the district policies? Because we have no policies in this arena. And what would we need to develop in order to have the right parameters, expectations, fulfillment of responsibilities by us and by them, or any other third party that we may bring into the housing situation. Again, proximity to work was the greatest interest. Is we want to work and live in the same area, and I think that's an integral part of community, is to be within the community that you're serving, with living where the students live, seeing them at the grocery stores, being with them, and that was a piece of information that was good to see. With regards to family space needs, they do want to see that it's family-centric in the housing. That there is an expectation that there is multi-bedroom, so not just a single, not just one room and you get everybody in, but that there would be multiple bedrooms available. It was interesting to see that they would like to have private outdoor areas. Often when we look at larger units, there's communal spaces, but not necessarily your own private area for outdoors. And again, the concern of not being in a dorm-like setting, that it's housing, not dorms. I saw someone going for their microphone. Was there a question, or got just a couple more slides if we're good? I'll keep rolling. Again, some of the benefits in this area is that we would be able to provide a way to relieve financial strain in trying to manage housing costs and being able to afford to live in the valley here. That was of interest and of note. And they're also wanting to look to see if there's any long-term sustainable housing solutions. So right now, we haven't set any of the parameters. We don't know how long someone would be in a unit, but there seems to be interest that it wouldn't be a short-term situation, that there would be a long-term solution to their housing needs. With that, so that's what the survey has brought out. Those are areas that we will need to explore for a feasibility study, whether we could take those interests and actually turn it into a property that would function at the prices that they're looking to be able to afford. We do have a list of properties here. These are not all properties. These are ones that actually have come to my attention either through developers or cities or others who have said, could we do something for affordable housing on these properties? So these aren't self-selected. I'm not throwing these out. These are, someone has come to the door, knocked on it and said, hey, could we do a teacher housing project at this school site? So that's why I put these on here. We need to decide if we're going to go down this path, what parcels are of interest, because that's what we would set up with a third-party consultant to come and do the feasibility study. We would say, here's our data of surveys, and here are the parcels that we'd like you to study and to see, is it possible to put all of these pieces together and make it viable? Then obviously we need to then hire our consultant to come in and do the feasibility study. And there's several options available to us. It's been interesting over the last little while to see who is interested in affordable housing and what they're willing to bring to the table to help make it come to pass. So one option is we can just go out and do our own RFP, limit the RFP down to the feasibility study to certain properties. The more properties we bring into the study, the higher the cost goes. So we want to be conscious of that. What is it that we do want to study? Another is that we can partner with a municipality. There's a couple of municipalities who have already come forward and said, hey, we'd like to work with you. They have either a housing authority within their public service works. They'd like to make that available to us, and we can partner with them. A number of them already receive housing dollars, whether from the state or, in our case, we actually have several RDAs that a portion of the TIF or the tax increment financing goes to affordable housing. So we could start to say, hey, we're putting money into affordable housing. We'd like that to catch up with our people. It's already being captured through a TIF. We can partner with a nonprofit organization. So there's been a couple ones made presentations to us. Others have talked to me over the phone. So there are other groups who work in this space. They work on affordable housing and do the studies and can actually run programs for different employers. Or we can go just straight to a developer. We can just put an RFP out and say, hey, we're looking for a developer. We know what we want. Come tell us how to get it done. And we don't worry about any of the in-between stuff. We just go straight to the execution and make it happen. Another area is when we work with whoever our partner will be for the feasibility study, we have a number of policy issues that we will need to talk through, because they're going to ask this question on the property. What is it that the district wants to do? Are you just renting units? Are these leased to own? Are you going to sell the units? What is it that we envision that we want to happen with these parcels? The ownership is who will actually own the housing area. Does the district want to own that? Are we okay with making the property available under a land lease, and they own the project and they operate the project and they worry about profitability? We just worry about making sure our employees have an appropriately priced place to live. With the developer, what path do we want to go down that? Do we go down a traditional path? Do we look for a private-public partnership? And those start to bring in the ideas of who would run, let's say it's a rental situation, who will actually run the business of the rentals, who will go through the application process, who will manage when the pipes leak or the door doesn't close right, who's going to take care of all the, I guess you would call it property management type responsibilities. There are groups out there that do private partnerships with this whole idea in mind, that the district or the government entity would bring certain assets to the table and they will then run the project from there. So that's out there. I talked about property management for a second there. Affordability. What do we think our thresholds are? Do we want to make this project available for federal funding? Or are we not worried about that? Do we want to make it available for state funding? Or we're not worried about that? Are we just looking for below market pricing so that we can get down to prices that people are able to afford, but it doesn't come with all the strings attached, with all the state and federal requirements for those assistance programs? This is all down the idea of developing a property. These are not the only solutions. So if people are looking for assistance to get into housing, there's a school district that participates in a fund. They put money into a fund, and that is available to district employees to apply to, and they receive down payment assistance to get into a home. And then that money is recaptured upon the date that they sell the property. So out of the proceeds, that loan, if you will, is repaid back out of the proceeds of the next sale. And then it's available then for the next cycle of interested individuals. We can also contract or coordinate with housing authorities. So we had Taylorsville's housing authority came and contacted me and said, hey, we have a project that we'd like to make available for government employees, including teachers. We'd love to be able to advertise to your teachers. Can we have a flyer pushed out through your communication systems and encourage them to come and apply for these housing? So it can be of that nature where we just get in very close and good relationships with the housing authorities in the valley and say, let's partner and figure out how can we get our people front of the line, top priority, better scoring on applications, things of that nature. So there are other paths that don't necessarily require us to look at properties and try to develop those. And that's what I have for my report today.
I want to thank Todd for his efforts to put this information together, and he's been working diligently on this project. I'd like to add to just a couple of pieces of context to his presentation, if the board wouldn't mind. why are we discussing this? I think sometimes people might chime into our board meeting and hear a part here or a part there and maybe take something out of context. But several years ago, after the closure of one of our schools, the municipality approached us knowing that they wanted to control the destiny of the property and make sure that some high-density property real estate was not coming in. They wanted to know what we were planning on doing with the property. We engaged with some ongoing conversations with them, and thereby the pitch was proposed of some sort of private partnership with the municipality and with the school district, wherein the school district could provide the property. The municipality could release some of its regulatory costs and requirements to the developer, making it cheaper for the developer to then produce suitable housing for the area and the neighborhood that could then be first offered up to our employees at a discounted rate. And again, some of the questions of whether we would make that available for federal or state funding requirements, if that's something we even had interest in. Kim and I were discussing this last night. She brings up a good point with respect to the fact that some of our employees have no desire to not only work all day long with their coworkers, but then go live next to them might be a little bit too much. So if there was not interest from our own employees to engage and utilize that housing, it could then be offered up at a regular market rate to the broader community. So with respect to that, we've had some ongoing conversations wanting to, under Dr. Nye's leadership, and then with his moving on, we continue to perpetuate those conversations. And again, we're solicited by another municipality with respect to offering to pay for the consultant to collaborate with them on some potential uses of some of our properties. So again, now we've been contacted by 2 municipalities, and yesterday I was at the School Superintendents Association meeting, and the governor's housing advisor came and spoke with respect to the fact that there are probably going to be 4 to 5 bills that will do exactly what we're talking about. There's a number of parcels owned by local municipalities and school districts throughout Salt Lake County and the entirety of the Wasatch Front that the legislature wants to shake free and open up for development to address the housing crisis. So our conversation is timely. My goal is always to provide the board with lots of different options and make sure that, again, we're controlling our own destiny and future and making sure that our taxpayers and our community and our employees are benefiting from whatever we do. So we are bringing this information to you as in an attempt to get feedback on how you would like us to proceed. I want to be clear about some things that we're not interested in. We are not interested in selling property long-term. We do not, it would not be my recommendation to this board to consolidate or monopolize property that we may need in 40 years from now or 50 years from now. It's always my goal every day when I wake up to not make a decision that's going to tie the hands of a future superintendent or board of education, because I think we've all felt that to some degree or another at one point or another. So again, anything we do would have, while there might be a long-term lease agreement, the property would eventually revert back to the district to be able to build a school down the road or be able to do something with the property at some future point. We're not planning on utilizing all properties for this. Just because a school may have been closed in the past doesn't mean that we're now looking to develop that into housing. And in fact, there was a very a news story about this almost a year ago, I want to say, that was very, we tried to talk them off the ledge that we'd not even entered the infancy on this conversation, but I don't want the public to believe that we're suddenly in the interest of becoming developers of all of our properties. Again, this could only be a potential option for a select few of our properties that we no longer feel would be a good use for long-term use for school properties, or in the event that we don't need them in the short term, meaning the next 40 years, could be used for a school property at a later date. So again, I've already mentioned it. We're in the business of educating kids. We are not interested in becoming property managers or developers. It would be my recommendation to the Board of Education, if we choose to pursue this, that we enter into a partnership with those who have the expertise to manage it and to develop it appropriately, while we control the destiny of the land itself long-term. And ideally, again, we would partner with our ability to do that. So that's probably looking at rental units as opposed to long-term ownership for the properties themselves. And last but not least, we are not interested in utilizing any taxpayer funds to do this. We already expend resources to maintain properties, and in our lease agreements with municipalities, we have tried to push those costs off to those entities with the willingness from their part to be able to maintain those properties for open space, parks and whatnot, so that we're not draining precious resources that could be going to the classroom or supporting our schools and students in other ways. So anything we do would have to be a net neutral, where we're only providing the land and entering into the agreement, would be my recommendation to this body. I don't want to put us in the situation where we're having to subsidize something on an ongoing basis of which we know we don't have the funds or the ability to do so long-term. So again, something that would be long-term a benefit, the use of the property to not just Granite School District as an entity, to our employees, keeping them closer to the students and the schools that they serve, but is not a hindrance to our taxpayers at any cost. So with that, we would be very open to your questions, your comments, and your feedback on how you would like us to proceed.
Any thoughts?
I do have a couple of thoughts. So first of all, thank you. I just wanted to thank you for bringing this topic to our public board meeting. I know I've had some thoughts for a while and asked that we discuss it in one of our meetings sooner than later. So thank you. And thanks for all the data you've put together. I felt that the survey felt meandering, but seeing you putting the data and the charts together and what purpose they were for was very helpful. So appreciate that. I do have a few concerns, though, that I just want to mention on the record. And one is, as been mentioned, right, I'm going to say it again just because I also did see it in the comments briefly mentioned as well, that I'm not sure that when people answer the survey, they necessarily consider this, but yeah, going to work all day with the people, with your coworkers, as much as you love them, then also having to come home and live right next door to those same coworkers, where that means, you shop with, you go to the same stores, you attend church with, you enjoy your summer break with, you jog around the neighborhood and they all watch you jogging. These same people that you work with every day, you would never get a break from them. So it's interesting to me, if people have considered that they are looking for that or want that. I think many wouldn't if they thought about it, but perhaps many do. I just also wanted to point out, like, subsidized housing benefits only a small portion of teachers. It's not going to benefit most of our teachers. And it's not, in my view, benefiting students. It's not supporting our core mission. But if we want to go down that road, and other districts and cities go down this road as well, because they will, before I sound like I'm exaggerating, I've seen that the governor has been cheering this kind of thing, not just in schools, for other public sector roles, police officers, other public employees. I think it's going to become bigger. Again, if we do it because it's an incentive, it's attractive for hiring purposes, other districts are going to look at that and say, hey, we need to catch up. We want to do that too. It's going to create more and more of this. And so I feel like, where does that land us as a society? Bigger picture here. I think self-imposed workforce communes are not a good idea. Self-inflicted echo chambers. More and more tribalism and division in society, all in the name of a somewhat myopic focus on hiring and retention incentives. That's a concern for me. Another factor to consider, I don't feel like this is addressing root causes of a housing crisis. Affordable housing is an issue for everybody, not just our teachers. It's an issue for everyone in our neighborhoods. And so I think that utilizing public funds, and I know, Ben, you mentioned we are not interested in using tax dollars. It's not our tax dollars that I'm talking about. It's tax dollars somewhere at some level, regardless. I do think you mentioned potential for an option here that maybe wouldn't use tax dollars at all. And so I'd say, great, let's look at that. But typically, this is going to use tax money at some level. And in doing so, like we're doing that, creating another special class that gets special treatment at the expense of everyone else who also suffers from the same problem. And so I don't like it for that reason either. I don't think that's very equitable. I don't find that very fair. And just as one other quick side note, one of the root cause problems, I think, is society itself. A lot of people in our society don't know how to manage their money well. They live beyond their means. And I'm just mentioning this because I did have a teacher even say to me that she would be willing to teach classes. So maybe offering something like that to our employees, just along these same lines, with these issues in mind, would be something we could think of as well. So just wanted to put those all out there. Thank you.
I respect everything you said, Kim. I'm coming at it just a little bit different. I do think it's a no-brainer that we need to rent, not own. You mentioned it, Ben, as far as, I mean, if we're hanging on to these properties, we have to stay more into the rental side of the equation than owning, because I don't, okay, so you have one unit owned and then the rest, it doesn't make, I'm thinking logistics here. And so I like looking into the partnership sounds good to me, because I love this idea. I think if there's a small way we can help our employees, I mean, this would actually be a huge way, because when you look at month-over-month rent, it could mean a lot more money into our, not only our teachers, but let's also include the ESPs, because they're just as important to make sure to take care of. As far as the concern with them living next to each other and knowing each other at work, I think statistically there's got to be, that would be, I mean, you'd have, boy, take me to Vegas. If you have qualified people in the same school that end up on the same street, I just think, I'm not a math teacher, Michelle, but whatever the probability of that is in that probability equation, I would find very slim. Especially when we have, hundreds of interested people, but what did you say, 40 to 100 maybe-ish? I mean, I know that's a broad paint swipe, I would brush, so, anyway, I'm interested in pursuing this. I do appreciate that we're taking the taxpayer dollar. So for my comment to be on the record, I don't want our precious school taxpayer dollars going into this. But I'm happy to look into partnerships that can take that burden away. Also, I don't want to be in the day-to-day property management, so I'm also happy to look into the partnership of whatever that looks like, as long as we're not having to go out and manage these individual properties. So I think there's a lot of potential here. I can't say exactly which, path I want to go down, because I don't think I'm knowledgeable enough at that point. But I would support kind of the rental side of this to maintain our property in the long run. But also be able to, my hope would be that even on the renting side of things, the rent is lower so that there can be some savings. So when either their time's up or however we manage those properties, that they can live within their means, that they are looking at this as an opportunity to save, to potentially get out and be able to, buy a home or a townhome or a condo or something, on their own. So that's just where my thoughts are.
Anyone else?
I think that the main thing I would want to know is I would want to understand that this is the way to utilize the resource of our property in order to move the needle 1%. That's what I'm interested in. Is this going to move the needle? I think it's awesome to provide relief, awesome, but that's not what our job is in Granite. Our job is to move the needle. So on the one hand, I am like, why are we distracted by this? We're teaching kids to read. Let's do that. Let's get them reading. But on the other hand, I'm like, but I see that the Wellness Center has attracted some great people. And I didn't want to be in the healthcare industry either, right? I didn't do that. But I see where that has indeed attracted teachers to us because teachers tell me it. I don't have hard data, it's anecdotal and experiential, but so that kind of makes me say, okay, well, maybe I shouldn't be so closed-minded about it. But I would want to know, I would want to look at it through that lens of, is this serving students through serving the teacher, which is, I think, what we're looking at every time we look at our teacher contracts in general. It also looks to me like this would serve, I'm looking at maybe around 800 people that seemed like they were in those top two categories. And of our 4,000, well, 8,000 because it included our ESPs. So it is a 10% of our population that is concerned about this. And I think that it is an interesting idea to also look at other alternatives of how to help rather than providing the housing. I think that there are other ways of supporting and helping and even partnering with other agencies who are interested in helping. Like, how do we take advantage of resources that are already around? How do we help connect our teachers to those resources? I like your other idea of doing, helping people manage their money, especially those early first 5 years as a teacher. I know that where I was like, wow, $1,000? That was like so big that I was getting a check for $1,000. And I had no idea what I was doing with that money. So I think there is something to that. And am I right that it looked like most of the people in this circumstance are our younger teachers? Because they looked like they had plenty of time left to work with Granite.
They were going to work at least for 5 years.
That's a fair statement. It's not absolute, but there's definitely when you looked at especially the ESP data, they were in their first 3 years of working with the school district. The teachers were more in the 5 to 10 year range.
Okay. And then there's the other issue of ESP versus like ESP. How many of those are actually on a contract, versus hourly, which is much more turnover. And so I have a lot of questions, and my bottom line is this the best way to use the resources to move the needle?
Thanks, Julie. For my part, I'm interested to see, I think I'm there with Karen that, I don't think that we should be in the housing business. I don't think we should be subsidizing, but at the same time, I know, because I work with people who have said, I'm not going to apply for Granite School District because I live in a different area, and to be able to have valuable and good teachers to encourage them to live here, because it is expensive. The area where we are, there's a lot of really expensive housing, and if that is something that will help us get some good teachers and move that needle, I think it's worth looking at least and seeing what it is. I do want to see that it is part of our strategic plan and that we have, a reason why we're doing this, but I think it is at least something that I'm interested to see what we have if we get a consultant and see the possibility and see if we can partner with people. But being able to provide that for good teachers would be, I think, invaluable to a lot of teachers, and we would be able to retain some of those good teachers that are moving out and going to different districts because it's closer to home. So,
It could be interesting to get some data about teachers. Are they leaving because they need to? Like, what is that rate that we have of teachers leaving because they can't afford to live here or whatever?
Sure. We do see a number of teachers who, in their exit surveys, indicate that they're going to a district that's a little bit closer to home. So maybe we could just have Patrick pull that information and share it with the board via email. That would be the lowest hanging fruit, aside from doing some sort of formal survey beyond that.
I also think I think the location is going to be probably one of the key things also.
Yeah.
I don't think if you choose a area that they're like, well, I don't want to move there because that's across the valley from where I'm currently renting or whatever. So I think location is going to probably be one of the bigger factors, I would think, in the interest. And also, I think this is really interesting. I think it could be a good benefit for our employees. I think it leaves a lot of questions too. So I think proceed, but with caution and make sure we're doing it within our means also. I don't want it to be, like Karen said, should not be a taxpayer, anything funded pursuit. So it's very interesting. I think location is, to me, when I saw that, I was like, that's going to be a key to see if this is going to succeed, how we're envisioning a little bit, so.
I'm interested to see further, what can we get partners, can we get, that type of thing. I see the disadvantage of young people trying to make a go starting out. You either live with your parents or, that's so difficult. And so, I can see a benefit in it, and so I say, see what we can do, and then we can always decide.
Just one thing that popped into my head I want to quickly mention. I'm sure you would have thought of this anyway, but one of the questions we would need to answer is, if we were going down this path, what happens when someone is no longer employed with the district and they're living in this housing? And does that create issues for us? Because it means if they are terminated, are we then evicting them as well? So just things to think about.
And those are all, there's a whole laundry list of questions that we need to work with whoever the property manager is or who the developer is all of those relationships. Say it's a 40-unit property and we can get 38 teachers into it or 38 district employees into it. What happens with the other 2? Can the developer now do that at market rates? So now there's a profit incentive, and so we have to balance that as well as, did you try as hard as you could to get district employees into it, or did you have some other motive? So we do have a list of questions that we need to ferret out, and that's one of those is what happens on end of term of employment, what's the grace period, or what,
I think that's a really good point. A couple points there in terms of rules, policies, procedures that we would need help with. Again, we don't want to manage property, but we want to make sure that there's a fair and equitable access for all of our employees to be able to take advantage of this if and when we choose to do that. I think the next steps at this point in time are to continue to engage with the 2 municipalities that have expressed interest. And most of those conversations will continue to promulgate through our real estate committee, which Todd heads up with the help of Steve Thompson. So with that in mind, I think we'll just continue to proceed in our inquiries and our conversations with municipalities. You do get a report from real estate committee on a monthly basis. So if there are questions that arise from that in the meantime and before we enter into any formal agreements, we'll make sure to notify the board if and when that is looking to happen, to make sure that they're engaged in that process and can have additional opportunities to provide feedback and direction.
All right, thank you. We have need of an executive session, so I'm going to ask that if you have any further questions to contact Todd, Todd or Ben personally. We do have need of an executive session for the purpose of character and competence, so I will take a motion as such.
Move that we enter executive session for the purpose of character and competence.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to move to an executive session for the purpose of character and competence. This is a roll call vote, so will you please state your name and your vote? Julie, go ahead.
Julie, yes.
Kim Chandler, yes.
Julie
Connie
Jackson,
Burgess.
yes, sorry.
Connie Burgess, yes.
Chris Nguyen, yes.